Here we go. So welcome everybody to the to the security working group. Going directly to our items. First, I will just share again the minutes, so you can include your name, please. The first item in our agenda is the best practices document, the issue 8819, and I was looking to the minutes of the last meeting, and we included two next steps. The first one is rename the threat list to a user-friendly title, and also split specific mitigations into a separate blog post document. So once we finish it, it will be able to, like, we can open a pull request at least. So that's good. That's very good, actually. So I think that we can go to the best practice documents today. I will share it in the chat as well. And then we can go and try to rename the title of each thread, and then see some of the mitigations, do a quick review. And then in the end of this meeting, if we finish, I can open the pull request. So the first threat list is malicious third-party modules. So I think that we can iterate over all the threads and then see what is missing and how can we refactor. So for each one of the list, I will include a to-do so we can comment about it. Okay. So let's see. Now we have this thread, which is like when somebody try to require a module, right? And one of the mitigations is the policy mechanism. That's acceptable, I guess, but we are not explaining here what is missing in this document. Like in this thread, at least we need to explain, like, a module code. When you require a module, the module can do whatever they want, unless like they can require another module. And to mitigate it somehow, we strongly suggest to define a list of modules that would be allowed to be required in the policy.json. I think that's a good one, but I'm not entirely sure. What do you guys think? Just to summarize, this strategy just is about a package. Any package that you will install in npm is able to do whatever they want. So for instance, I installed Express. If Express gets an update, and malicious update, and it starts to sending my personal data somewhere, they can. That's okay.
Okay, so I have a couple of comments on the description. Can you see if I highlight this section, for example?
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So for example, here, I would just replace this by any package can access powerful resources.
Yeah.
Because we don't really mind, we don't really care if packages are simple or complex. And then before mentioning the policy mechanism, which we should, I would grab this part here, which describes what happens when the policy is not enabled. And I would put it here. So
yes.
all code running into a node process has the ability to load and run arbitrary code. All code with file system write access might do the same thing. And then you mention, okay, node has a policy mechanism to declare the loader resource as untrusted or trusted. However, this policy is not enabled by default. This would be my suggestion to, at least to get the description out of the way first, and then we mention, okay, and there's a policy mechanism that can help to make it better.
Yeah, actually, I'm just wondering if policy is the right I don't know, mitigation for that, because you know the policy will as far I know, you can say like this module can access this resource and so on. Not this resource, actually. This module can require this module or not. But is very hard to say because, for instance, let's say one example here. I'm looking to the policy. Wait. I just look into the policy.json example to see like I want to allow access to the net module only to these packages, for instance. But I don't think that we have it. That's hard to say. So I will include it as a to-do.
Does it work as a whitelist? So in the sense that only the packages mentioned in the policy are allowed to do things? Or does it work like a blacklist where the only constraints, it only constrains those packages you mentioned in the policy? What I'm trying to ask is, if you have a policy that says this package is allowed to, or is not allowed to access this resource, what does that say about all other packages?
Yes.
Do you have to be
exhaustive? Like, but I think that this is near of impossible because, for instance, let's say that we allow Express to use the net module. Totally fine. But let's say that Express now does not use the net module itself. It requires a module that runs the net for them.
Mm-hmm.
In the policy.json, we don't really need to say like, okay, I don't know which module is using a net module, but I will only allow the Express and its dependencies to run the net module. But I think that this is very important, very difficult to do, and I don't think that policy does it, honestly. So what I can do at least is like I will select the node.js policy mechanism and command check if policy can mitigate malicious third-party modules itself. Okay.
Yeah. Is there someone we could ask about it?
I think I forgot the name. Yes, we have someone, the guy who wrote the policy. He was in a previous call, but like long time ago. I don't recall. But also, even if policy is not a mechanism, we are not here to say, okay, we have a mitigation for each one of those threats. I think the objective of this document is to say, okay, you can mitigate it this way, but if we don't provide a feature for that, we need to do some kind of guidance. Guidance. For instance, even knowing that Node, all of your code is running using the same permissions for every package and your userland code, you need to make sure to not install malicious packages. And the way that you can see it is looking to your package log, for instance, and see if the versions match, and you can use npm audits for that or something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the mitigations are not only node.js features, they can also be any kind of best practice that you can use.
Okay, so include other mitigations, other non-feature mitigation, such as
Yeah, but we do have a couple of those, right? For like if you pin the dependent, like the first two, those are not
yes,
strictly node.
pin dependencies versions. Yes, this basically. So I will just do the to do actually instead of saying to include this, I will say just to expand it a bit, right? How does that sound for you? Do you think that it's better like just to say the problem and not explain about the mitigation?
You mean explain how the mitigation solves the issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on how didactic we want to be on this document. I mean, if you mention the mitigation, like someone that is motivated enough can go take a look and see how it applies. But indeed, we could make it a more didactic document and try to, say, okay, if you pin the dependency versions, then you can ensure that, I don't know, no new versions that you didn't intend to are installed. But I would say that's probably for a V2 of the document. Like for now, let's just mention them.
Yeah, I think that we can just, as you said, like as we mentioned policy, but we don't say how to use it. We just mention, oh, policy might be used for that. So if they want to use, they search for it.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just expand a bit this. So how can we do that? I think that we can do it right now. So make sure, let's say, ensure to pin dependence versions. It's hard to say to ensure to pin dependence versions because this is in theory it works, but in the practice, in the practice, it is a tough operation. So ensure to pin dependence versions, and run automatic checks. Automatic checks for vulnerabilities using workflows. Using workflows, okay.
Yeah, maybe we can suggest also some npm scripts for that. Like I have some I have some npm scripts that I use normally for many projects, like in terms of security, like checking the log file or running sneak, these kind of things. So might I suggest that can be, or maybe it's too specific.
Yeah, I wondering to suggest npm audit here, but I mean, I had several problems with it in the past, and I don't know if this is useful.
Yeah, maybe it can be too much. Let me pass the link on the document. I just added in the document as a link, but maybe it's too specific. Yeah, I have a repo which is like useful npm scripts, that I find around or I build myself for projects. So
yeah, maybe there will be like too much, like if we too much third-party tools like or things like this. So it will be better to keep this on maybe ours on Node.js security, for example, because for example, in Node Secure we also have solution and script for this, but I guess there is a lot of like Sneak have and a lot of people have different solution.
Yeah, a lot of third party. Yeah.
I think that we can mention the Git leaks at least. It's a good tool, like for instance, ensure to pin dependency versions and run automatic checks using workflows, using famous or common workflows.
Do we have to put a mention also about maybe in your script? Because I guess most of the time malicious first party will be execute, at least it would be execute code using things like post install or things like this.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this by reading the sentence.
Yeah. So what is your suggestion? Sorry.
Yeah, to add maybe another mention, because we mentioned that we have to pin dependencies and check for vulnerabilities, but I think most of the time we also recommend use developers to maybe in your the script, because it can be dangerous. It will, because malicious third party most of the time they just execute a script after installation of the package.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. Oh my God. Again, not. Wait. Almost fall from the chair again. Okay. I just wondering how can we write it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not the strongest in English.
Ensure to pin dependency versions and run automatic checks for dependencies using common workflows or npm scripts. I think that we can just remove the link to the uList here, but keep the npm script. And in case, like for instance, the suggestion of Thomas, we can include it into the mitigations here, the list mitigations. So if you have any link or anything that might be useful, Thomas, please include there.
Okay,
I think that we are good in this thread at least.
I think we are good. Should we include maybe in terms of mitigations suggestion for the people to use like well-known or well-maintained libraries, kind of things, like if you have 300 libraries that do the same thing, just pick the most popular or most used one, so you prevent the typical cut copy of a different library, things like that, so you are more safe in terms of maintenance, patching, or maybe it's going too far, and just preventing non very popular libraries to grow, so that's there's a dark side of that suggestion. So
I think that we can at least say, okay, before installing a package, make sure that the content of this package is the one that you expect, and it includes tests, it is currently maintained, and you know that the owner is responsible or something like that. I think that this is useful at least to mention.
Yeah, that's true, because there's a very tricky thing here that you might, for example, review the code that is in GitHub for a specific library, but it's not the same that has been published, for example. It can be, sometimes happen that the people publish the package before making the release, or they do it separately. So sometimes you get a different code.
Okay.
So that can be a little bit tricky.
So before installing a package, make sure that this package is maintained and includes all the content you expected in. Pay attention, not always the GitHub source code is the same as the published one. You can explore the published code in the npm explore. Let me see, npm explore. Let me go to npm festify, for instance. Festify. We have these here and explore. No, if the package size is too big, we can't like say it. So be attention, not be careful actually. Be careful. Not always the GitHub source code is the same as the published one. Validate it in the node modules. Does that make sense to everybody?
Makes sense for me.
Yeah, and you, Facundo?
Yeah, do you mind if I, let me see, so here, instead of not always the GitHub source code is the same, I would say, yeah, I would just put, be careful, the GitHub source code is not always the same.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm using my Portuguese and mixing with English.
But yeah, looks good.
Yeah, we can ask Michael for a final review any case, I think.
Yeah, when we open the pull request, probably would be great. So, okay, I think that we are good here.
I think we are good. I have maybe another topic that can be a threat potentially, but maybe not. So we are discussing a lot in terms of the threat list of packages. I mean, how the user react to third-party packages, like, for example, in this malicious third-party. But there is also an option that you accidentally publish a package which include, for example, your .m file, or some kind of secrets, or your Git history, or whatever, because you don't properly use the npm ignore, or you don't have an automated way. As well, in npm also you publish your IP, so not everybody's aware of that. So we consider that something to cover in the document, first thing, and in case of yes, we have mitigations for that.
In which section do you mean? In this one?
Yeah, maybe as a threat, can be considered as a threat, because technically it's like leaking information, which, for sure there is a WASP top 10 even for that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a general recommendation that we can include. Like, it is not a threat, because I see it as the same, like I'm pasting my password and my account in my Twitter, like that. That's kind of the same. Like, it's just some guidance, like before publishing a package, make sure that all the contents here, like we can provide them some dry runs scripts, like it will simulate your package will be published like using Verdaccio, I guess the name. So I think that's useful too, but in a different, not as a thread list, it might be like in the middle or in the end of this document, but this is still useful, yeah.
I think it might make sense to add it because while it's not like a thread per se, it is kind of a threat vector, right? It's a way that leaked credentials are a way in which malicious actors can mess up with your system or your code or your repo. So yeah, maybe I think there is even a CWE assigned to I don't know how it's called, but it is probably something like leaked credentials or.
But what we gonna say about it? I mean, if the guy did it, what we gonna say? Like, how can you do? Because
yeah, we cannot say much more than double check your configuration file so that no secrets are exposed. Yeah, I don't know in Node in particular where are the possible places where that can be the case. But for example, for any project, it is very common, for example, on continuous integration files. So the files that you use to configure GitHub Actions and Travis and so forth, those usually sometimes have like hard-coded SSH private keys or whatever, right? So that's like one place you can look at. But in general, but I don't know in particular for Node if there's something like that.
Yeah, I think you can define some, there is a complex behavior, I think, on that, because if you don't define like an npm ignore when you publish, then I think it's taking the git ignore one, potentially, I think, if that's in place. So yeah, so it's tricky because potentially you might have something on your repository that is kind of okay to share because a private repo, whatever, but when you publish the package, then become public and it's not idealistic, So I don't know, there is a lot of ways that accidentally you can leak. How to prevent it? It's a little bit tricky because you have to understand well, like the ignore policies to have in place, and maybe using a continuous integration to do the publication is a good idea. That way you prevent like other folders that you created on the same repo, which is very common, and then you accidentally leak it. Can be another option.
So yes, I think that is good. This is very good. Let me just move it here. So okay, so everybody sees it as a different threat, right? Not this malicious third-party module. I think this is not
not related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me include it here. I'm including the threat list.
I pasted a few CWEs on the chat that might apply to this.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, just to.
Ulysses, I will mention you. Do you use the Gmail account, right?
Yes.
Just to tag someone, okay?
Okay, fantastic.
Create, include the leak, the package leak threat as mentioned. Okay, great. Hello, Michael.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. I think that we spent half of our time here. So what we can do today in the next half is going directly to the threat model. So
sure, if you got through everything else.
Yeah, actually, we are discussing here the best practices document. We are just making a final review before opening a pull request, looking to what is missing and if we are covering everything that we want. and so on. So
A good thing to try and get is the OSSF best practices, because I think that would be a good thing to compare against, right?
I saw the OSSF best practices, but the problem is that they are general rules that I'm not saying that our best practice supersedes the OSSF one, but I just say actually I'm thinking that this one is more platform specific. It's like a complement of the another one.
Right. So I was like, it'd be good to have like, it's almost I can see like a layering. Here's the generic one, and
Yeah,
then the node press practices. There may be some things that like are specific, but I suspect some of them should be in support of those general ones, giving more specific guidance of how you implement them, right? So I just see it as like, if we can, it's in my perfect world, we'd almost have that layering of like, hey, we have some generic best practices from the OSSF, great. Then here's how you should implement those for a JavaScript project or a project in the OpenJS Foundation.
yeah.
And they've got these list of 10, these 5 apply, these 5 don't apply, and for the ones that apply, here's our guidance. And then actually here's these other 5 things which like are very specific that aren't covered in the general things that we're going to tell you about as well, right? Add on.
Yeah, I mean, the one that we have here is totally, I mean, what I think that the reasonable thing that we can do here is mention the OSSF general best practices in the top of this document, like saying, okay, this document is platform specific. All the threads is related to Node.js, but it is not only these that you need to secure against. Please look to the OSSF one, and that's all, I think.
Yeah, I don't know whether in this doc or somewhere else. I still think we should have a mapping, like if the OSSF one is an obvious starting place and like it's okay, yeah, I just know how to implement that. I don't need any OpenJS specific stuff, great. But I'm still guessing that there'll be like, yeah, to implement whatever they're suggesting. Well, in the JavaScript space, here's some extra recommendations and guidance we can give you, right? So maybe that's a different doc, but I see value for us as the security working group, being able to have that, helping people in our community implement those high level recommendations.
Yes. I just wondering how can we do that map, because that would be.
Do we have a link that shows their recommendations? Like
the recommendations, you mean the document that we are creating?
yeah, well, the best practices from the OSSF.
Oh, let me find here. I have it saved, I guess.
I found one about very specific about NPM. I just saw in the chat, which by the way seems very related to the mitigations that we discussed before. Just saw it right now. So yeah, I see a lot of connecting the dots between they and us.
Yeah, I have just they have their working group, right? They are working on that, but I don't see if they have something ready to share publicly. I will share just the working group.
Right, and that's where, so maybe this is a separate effort. I don't want to derail the discussion here, but like, I just think it's important that we've got, like, we continue to push them to say, well, what is it you're telling us we should do, right? Like, if the OSSF should be I think, in their vision under this is like, let's come up with, for open source developers in general, here's what you should be doing, right? Like, here's the best practices you should be doing. Then I think it's interesting for us to look at our own projects and to say, well, how do we actually are we doing that already? Maybe we are. Like, actually, if they're in a perfect world, my perfect world, there would be a list of requirements. We could go through and say like, hey, is the Node project doing this one? Check. check, check. Oh, we're not doing this one. Does it make sense in
Okay.
the context? Yes. And then from those, like if they're all obvious, like it's the kind of thing like it's like you know, use 2FA. Maybe that doesn't need any more guidance. But there'll be some, I guess, that will be like a mapping from whatever they have to the JavaScript world. And that's where I could see us then say, and here's some additional layer of guidance that says, yeah, if you're a JavaScript open source project, here's something that makes sense. Or maybe we, you know, maybe that won't make sense. But even just having gone through that checklist ourselves on our own project will help us understand, is there anything there or not? And also help us say, are we actually meeting those best practices?
But this is like different what we are trying to achieve here, isn't it? Like you are saying that Node.js should look to it and perform those checks and see if Node.js is secured against it.
Yeah.
Right. But this document objective is for end users to understand about what we can't say in the threat model, but we need to say it somehow. Like the module resolution algorithm might be a vulnerability, but this is designed by Node. You need to secure it this way and this way, you know.
So yeah, so I think I think that clarifies it for me. Like this is best practices for Node consumers, not for JavaScript
Yes.
developers, right? Like,
yes.
so maybe that's just, we need to have like, you know, I'm thinking like in the context of the OSS work, it's like best practices for maintainers. And actually this is best practices for consumers,
Node.js,
right? So,
for developers,
yeah.
Node.js developers, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so maybe that, yeah, if we put that in the title, then it probably clarifies like this is not, they are two different things, which is I guess sort of what I was getting at earlier. There may be two different things, but like figuring out where that OSSF guidance comes in, I think would be a good thing for us to have as well. And I just thought of that when I saw the title, so.
Yeah, okay. I have just included to mention the OSSF best practices document. So great. So yeah, I think that's clear now, right?
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Okay, let's move forward then. Going to the next issue in your agenda, which is the automatic check for dependencies, and then we go to the threat model and stop there. Fagundo, do you have any update? What is the state or something like that you want to share?
No updates for this today.
Okay.
So I think it's we've now got it running and working well, which is good. Like we have 9 issues that are open. I haven't had time to look, but it's like I'm wondering why we're not closing those issues out. I guess
we should be able to close them now because the script, in order to check if a new issue should be created, checks both in the open and closed issues. So we should be fine to close them.
Right, but are they actually no longer being reported? Or like if they're still, if we still have the vulnerable versions, I think we want to leave the issues open so that when people like, they say, hey, well, wait a sec, I see a CV reported against Node. They can go to the open issues and then see, okay, well, there's an issue that tells them it doesn't apply, right? But I'm more like,
yeah,
I guess we haven't updated Node to have the non-vulnerable version yet, right?
I think we have on, at least on the main branch. I don't know if in 18 we have.
Yeah, let me just Node.js dependency assessment. So actually, I'm just going to look at the most recent run. Check bones.
But from my perspective,
actually, the only one being reported in the 18.x run is zlib. And then let me look at the other one. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I think you're right. We can just close out some of those, so we can go ahead and do that. I'm going to talk to the triage team to see if if they're willing to take on like looking at the new reports and sort of triaging them along with other stuff. I guess some next steps is like actually turning it on for 16 as well. Do you know, Fernando, is there anything that needs to happen before we could do that?
Yeah, so something that I brought up, I think was the last meeting, was that, remember that you mentioned that the difficult thing for porting back these to other branches is that we have that blacklist mechanism where we have the vulnerabilities that we want to ignore on a file in the node repo, right? And if that changes frequently, it means that, yeah, we would have to also backport that to every branch each time what I was thinking was that now that we're actually using the issues on this GitHub repo to track what is actually active or not, we might as well just get rid of the blacklist on the node repo, and then whoever runs that script as it is will just get a list of any vulnerability that is still reported by the databases. But then we on the vulnerability repo, we will use the issues as a way of saying, okay, we should ignore these because these are already reported and closed or reported and open. Do you think that makes sense?
Or can we pull the blacklist from, like, it's kind of nice if you can run it locally and get the
another
answer.
idea would
go ahead. Yeah.
Another idea would be to take the blacklist as a file parameter, and then we have the blacklist as a file in our vulnerability repo, and we can change it there anytime we want for each branch. And then when we run the script, we pass that file as a parameter. And the node repo will only have the script itself.
Actually, I pasted here in the chat that we already discussed it previously in the last meeting, and one of the suggestions was like the one that Facundo suggested, like a file parameter. But also, I suggested that the blacklist might be just superseded by GitHub issues, because once you say that it is not, this does not affect Node.js, it is automatically in the blacklist. So that's all. We don't need to have a file that will say this is the blacklist or not. We have issues that will hold the state, and once it's closed, it is automatically removed from the blacklist, or we can add another label, for instance. But I believe that we can resolve it without holding a repository state.
Yeah, so I think both things make sense. So I think for us, we can use the issues as a way of tracking and ignoring vulnerabilities, but then it would still be nice to put the file mechanism on the script so that anyone who uses the script can configure it to ignore certain vulnerabilities. And then we can also, like, it gives us more flexibility in the future. If at some point we want to, I don't know, change the way we track the issues or whatever, we can always fall back to, okay, we have a file with the things we want to ignore, and we pass that to the script.
Yeah, I guess what I was wondering is, like, because I think like the issue, I don't like, just because we said it doesn't apply doesn't mean we want it in the ignore list. Because if it's still reported against Node, we probably want to have the issue open and be able to answer questions in terms of like, why is it reported? There's only like some much smaller subset, which is like, well, we're never going to fix these. Most of them will be like the Indici ones, like they're reported. At some point we upgrade Node, they go away, right? And so we close them. So, you know, versus there's like 2 or 3, right, that you've like, well, we're never going to update them, so we actually put them into that file. So I think those, like, putting them into the file and managing that file is going to be not that hard. I do agree, like, managing them in the backports is not necessarily going to be easy. Could we like manage those in a file, but like when you run the script, it automatically curls the exclude list for the version you're checking? Like, we're running on 18, so I know that the exclude list for 18 is in the Node.js dependency vulnerability assessment repo at this URL.
We could, but I think it's too complex in the sense that it would be doing things in the background that maybe you don't expect. I would rather have the README say, I have an example where, okay, you can download the blacklist from here, and then you can run the script using that blacklist,
Right.
rather than, than having it correlate from.
And then the
know,
automated
the-
tools would just grab that could do the curl and specify the list, the file.
Yeah, indeed. And for our case, we don't need to do that because we would run the tool from the repo that has the blacklist file.
Yeah, I think that's a good step to take, where the blacklist, like, we can manage it in the Node.js dependency vuln assessment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. I think it makes sense.
Okay, because yeah, if we did that, and then it's still, like, from the past discussions, the actual script itself still makes sense in the actual streams, because those, like, that does depend on the dependencies and stuff, right?
Sorry,
But-
come again?
And it, sorry, say that again?
No, I was asking, could you repeat that, because I didn't
Right,
get it.
like, I think the discussion before was like, does the script itself, should it be in the node repo? And I think the reason it was is because the dependencies might vary based on the
Yes.
version, right? So the script itself, just doing the sanity check, we still think the script itself should stay there.
Yeah, I
we
do
would
think
have
so, yeah.
Okay, and we'd have to backport this change to give you, but eventually we will run out of those changes, right?
Yeah, indeed. In theory, we should. I mean, unless we expect to add many features to the script, and then we will have to backport those to the
I don't think there's
the
too
old
many
branches.
more that I can think of. Like,
Yeah, no, indeed, me neither. The alternative, and just to put it out there, would be to have the script on the vulnerability assessment repo.
right,
And then we would need to have there a branch per node version and maintain the different script versions there. Because when you backport the script to an older version that doesn't have the same dependencies, you will
Yeah.
have to modify the script.
so that's possible too. That would make, it's easier. No backporting would be required, right?
Yeah, indeed. For us, it would be much easier to maintain. The only trade-off there is that you lose the connection between you lose the connection between a dependency being added or removed or updated, and the fact that the script that knows about that dependency will be in a whole other repo, right?
Right.
So if you remove a dependency, the script will start failing silently in another repo.
Right.
But yeah, it's not that much different from what it is now, right? Probably if someone removes a dependency now, it will still fail. It's just that, okay, the change will be in the same repo.
So what do you think about that as you look at the feature to, like, specify the exclude file? And
Yeah, I can try to.
you can see what
move
you'd
it
want,
into-
like, after doing, as part of that, see what you'd propose as the way to go.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I'll try to put it temporarily on the vulnerability repo.
Okay.
And see how that works out.
Because that would let us, like, turn on 16 and 14 more easily versus having to say, let's backport.
Oh yeah, it would really accelerate things.
Okay.
Okay, sounds like we got in some next steps there, so that's good.
Yeah. I'm writing here. So what would be the next step? Can you repeat, please, just to include the minutes?
Yeah, so the
Yes.
next steps are first, add a mechanism to specify a blacklist as a parameter, as a file.
Okay.
then evaluate moving the node script, sorry, the vulnerability checking script to the vulnerability repo.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's it. And the other pending thing that's not, it's related to the script is to improve the output of the script so that it doesn't spit out the entire output when creating an issue. It just spits out whatever is relevant to that issue.
Okay.
I'm gonna add a for mouse triage.
And there's one thing that we missed from the previous meeting is that we have agreed on creating a hood issue and make it available in the security working group agenda, so we will not lose the track of those vulnerability, because the issue might be opened, but if nobody looks to it, unless us, it will not work. So I think that we can also create the hood issue just to keep tracking in each security working group agenda, just to say, okay, we have these issues and that's all.
You could almost like update the template for the security working group meeting to have like a standing thing on the agenda, which is
Oh yeah,
review the or the other way we've done something like that is to just create an issue and tag it for the agenda, and that issue is like review vulnerability repo together. Right,
yes.
so it's
Another way
basically
would be
just an issue you never close. It's always on the agenda.
Yeah, another way would be on the template to have a section called recurring items.
Yeah.
And there we just put the.
Yeah. What is the how can I update the script, Michael? What is the?
So yeah, let me just point you in the right direction there. I'm just finding the template here, meeting base. Okay. So this is the base template that gets filled in.
Okay. Oh, but okay, it should use a different one as well, like a merge, right?
Well, it sticks in all those issues and stuff like that, right? So like the easiest way would be, yeah. So actually, I guess it's the minutes or the meeting. Well, actually, both of them maybe. Yeah, that's the meeting issue base, and the minutes base is this one. Minutes. So here's the one, that second one is for the minutes.
Okay, amazing.
So like
Yeah.
that one, like that's what's used to create the Google Doc. So yeah, we could add like a standing issues, first thing or
Okay.
like right after the announcements or something like that.
Yeah. Recurrent checks. How can we name it? Like, what is the suitable name for that?
It could be like vulnerability review.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can also add a link to the GitHub
Yeah.
issues on that repo.
Okay, that makes sense. Node.js, vuln assessment issues that does not contain the label. How can I do that? Okay, I figure it out.
Yeah.
No problem. Let me just include here and open the pull request. Okay, creating the pull request. Just created. I will send the link here. What do you think?
Let me take a look. Yeah, it looks good to me. I can just. OGITM that and merge it. And so like the next time it generates, it'll use that. And
Great, amazing.
unfortunately, we just used up all of our time.
Okay, so great. I think that we reached the end of the meeting. So thank you everybody for your time. It was great. So next week we will keep working the best practices. I think that we are moving very good on that and probably open up requests soon. And Michael and Facundo, I will also plan another meeting to discuss the threat model, going directly to it, because I think that we are almost done.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Yeah,
idea
sounds good.
for sure.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay, talk to you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.